Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. Wonderful to see you, and you brought the weather with you, so thank you very much. I won't do much of the talking today, just do some introductions and a quick overview. You know Zoe, say hello Zoe. Who will be looking after your sons and daughters next year. But we also have 5 new posts next year to look after, one for each year group. We're calling them Playroom Leaders. And I want to introduce Rory Mellows. And Rory will be looking after your boys and girls as well, but he will also follow them through the school. The tutors that your children will have next year will follow your children through the school. Because, as you know, our boarding houses are by year group and they move parts of the buildings each year. But how do you also get the accompaniment with the children as they go through the school? Because, as you know, in school it's about building those relationships and knowing the children. You know your children, and we need to get to know them. And the way to do that is to accompany them. And accompaniment is actually going to be one of the major themes of the development plan next year. And that's for pupils, for parents, and for staff. There's different things that we're adding and doing differently next year. And it's a whole year of accompaniment with the things. And in leading all of those strands is our new senior deputy head, who's Alice McNeil. Say hello, Alice. Alice has 2 hats. And this could cause difficulties, but being professionals, we'll work that out, because Alice is also a mum of a girl in LG, coming through to LG. So we might need to be careful about a few things, if there's any conflict there. But Alice is our new senior deputy head, has come from Worth School down in West Sussex, a Catholic boarding school, and before that Bedales, and before that Ampleforth. So brings a huge amount of experience. And Alice's job is the day-to-day running of the college, the senior school bit of it, if you like. Andrew is the director of music, who is not going to entertain you today. He usually does, and produces lots of wonderful musical things, but he's actually recording this for parents who can't be here. So that's me. The theme is accompaniment, and I'll hand over to Zoe.
Absolutely. Well, hello everybody. Again, it is always a pleasure to see you all, and this is our last transition breakfast, which all seems to have come around really rather quickly. But the focus today is about pastoral care, how we look after your young people here at the college, and also about what will the year ahead look like, both from an induction perspective, what's left of this year, and indeed the year going on, and what it will look like for you as parents, because it's really important when we talk about accompaniment, we don't just mean the accompaniment of the young people in our care, but also you as the families, because you are a key part of ensuring, even if you have a child who is a full boarder with us, you are a key part of that relationship in ensuring that, and working with you to ensure that everything works for the young people in our care. As Mr. Brown was just saying, the lower grammar team, obviously I am the assistant head that will look after your children, but we also have Rory, who John has recently just introduced you to. And as John was saying, Rory will move with your sons and daughters, and I'm going to ask Rory just to come over and say hello to you very briefly as he is here and introduce himself. Rory.
Yeah, so very quickly, it's very nice to meet you. Some of you I've actually met before through the computer screen, I think, in parent consultations. So it's nice to see those people in the room, which is much better. So as you've heard, my job is going to be essentially seeing your children every day for the next 5 years, whether they like it or not. So if they get on my good side straight away, that'd probably be a good move. And it's just going to provide that level of support, that sort of consistent day-to-day. If they've got a problem, they know where to find me, things like that. And it's just a level of support that I can provide and keep you informed of things that are going on in their lives as well. Okay, and that's sort of all I had to say.
Brilliant, thank you, Rory. So, and I think one of the key parts of that as well is that Rory will be working with me designing the tutor programme. So we design and manage and look after the team of tutors that will work with your children and will be key in providing that level of pastoral care for them. In Lower Grammar Boys, we have Mr. Lightbound, who will be known to many of you because he will probably teach your sons and daughters history down at SMH. He is currently working in grammar boarding, and he will be moving down as the Lower Grammar house parent. And there will be an opportunity for those of you who are boarding families to have either in person if you are local and able to come and meet him, Otherwise, there will be a online Q&A where you will be able to have a chat with him and ask some questions and understand a little bit about his involvement in the Lower Grammar Boys House and how he'll be running that. And then in Lower Grammar Girls, we have an incredibly experienced lady joining us from Woldingham School. We're very excited for her to join us in Mrs. Sarah Lomax. And she has been a house parent for many years, and she will be joining us to look after the Lower Grammar Girls and the Grammar Girls. So she will look after that year group. And again, we will be organising early on in the term an opportunity for you all to speak with her. She obviously isn't with us yet, and therefore that will be a little trickier to arrange, but we are in the process of sorting that one out. When we talk about pastoral care here at Stonyhurst, we talk about walking with the children. We talk about accompanying them in all that they do. And there is a huge team of people who do that. It's actually come out rather smaller than I was hoping, but you will be able to see there that right at the very centre and the very important message in the pastoral care that we provide is that the student remains at the centre. We talked about, when we did our academic transition morning, about cura personalis, about care for the individual, and that remains the case when we talk about pastoral care here at Stonyhurst. Each child is an individual, and it's really important that we are able to meet them where they are and that they have a team of people around them. And that won't be the same team of people for every single child. They will all be available to them, but different children will gravitate to different areas of that team, and that is really important. For you as parents, and very intentionally, right at the top and in the centre, I have put the tutor. Your child will be part of a tutor group of between 10 and 12 students, and they will be your primary point of contact. You will always have Rory and myself as key people who will be in your children's lives and available as points of escalation and points of contact. But the tutor is the person who will be with your child in a much smaller group and able to support them and help them and guide them and accompany them on their journey here at Stonyhurst. You of course have, as I said, the playroom leader, and it's really important for me to stress, I've put the boarding house team on here, and if you're a day parent, you may be thinking, well, that one doesn't apply to me. For us here at Stonyhurst, it doesn't matter whether your child sleeps upstairs, whether they come in through the glass doors of the morning, whether they sometimes go home and are sometimes here. Every single child in Lower Grammar Playroom is a member of Lower Grammar Playroom, and therefore all of these people are there to help them, whether they're a boarder, whether they're a day student. I will talk to them very early on about being Rhetoric 2028. I got that right? Yes, Rhetoric 2028, and I will talk to them, and I already have when I went over to see them last week, about how do they want to be remembered as Rhetoric 2028 and what values are they looking to make sure are evident in their playroom. So we're already having those conversations with them, and I think it's really important that you as families feel that that doesn't matter where they are, everybody is here to support them, and that includes the boarding house parent, and indeed many of our day pupils end up staying over a little bit and a little bit more and a little bit more until actually by the end of school they're often here with us nearly all the time, and you're starting to say, Zoe, I don't want to park my car outside anymore, can they just stay with you the whole evening? So that boarding house parent often becomes key to all of you. Of course, we have the chaplaincy team who work with our young people. As parents, you will be invited, and every term we have a playroom worship that is designed by the students, for the students and you as their families. It is their opportunity, but also the chaplaincy team don't just do that. For many children, they work in small groups with them. They are also a point of support and care and attention and somebody that they can talk to. And they are available all of the time, which is really important. They're also up in boarding and around the school. So there are many ways in which your children will interact with them, sometimes if they choose, and also intentionally through timed playroom worship events. I've put on here the SEND team, and that is again that idea of certain children will have certain needs and may gravitate to that area at different points, and that's our special educational needs department. They are a fantastic department who provide support, care and attention to all of our students, all of our young people, but also to those who have particular needs, and they are always there as an additional form of pastoral care. Our safeguarding team, many of you will have noticed, I am also the DSL at the college, so I am the designated safeguarding lead across campus. That means that I look after all of the safeguarding at the college, And I am supported by a fantastic team, and they will often be around, and the people that your children come and have a little chat to if they're concerned or worried about anything, and that's a really important role and one that is available to all of our young people. Of course, classroom teachers and the health centre. We are very privileged to have a health centre that is on site, and within that health and wellbeing centre we have a counselling provision, we have nurses, and we have trained healthcare professionals who are able to touch base if they've got anything from a cut on their finger, a sore head, or actually we start to notice a pattern where every time there's maths, suddenly somebody disappears. No discredit to maths, it could be Spanish, and they all disappear, and we start to pick up those things. So they are a fantastically wonderful resource that we're very, very privileged to have, but who are really important to our young people because they're also somewhere that they can go and get advice, help and support if they need it. You'll notice that I haven't put myself on there, and that's because really I am those arrows that makes all of those things, is aware of all of those things happening, who is keeping an eye over the top and making sure they're happening, and picking in when needed, dropping in to support the pastoral care of your sons and daughters. I think it's a really important point to say. Obviously you will all have received the lovely email from Mr. Brown that actually externally we were also accredited by ISI as being excellent, and that isn't just in our academic care. They also they focus on two areas, and that pupil and personal development is all about the pastoral care of the young people, how we accompany them, and essentially this is why Stonyhurst is excellent in personal development and pupil development, because we are able to provide that individualised care when they need it. I call it a safety net. It's always there, and when they sort of wobble off the bike a little bit, we catch them and pop them back on, and for some that'll be more often, and for some there won't be any bumps along the road, and then it may all go wrong catastrophically at one point and it feels awful, but the net is still there, and I think that's the really important thing when it comes to pastoral care of the young people here. How do we do it apart from when, as I'm saying, there are issues or there are things that happen? I think what's really important to talk about is what underpins all of those people, and how we provide pastoral care in the form of a curriculum in the same way that we do for our academic or our co-curricular side of the school. We have a really robust PSHE programme. The PSHE programme essentially touches upon all those topics which will touch upon the lives of your children in some way or other. That can be everything from mobile phones, to drugs, to alcohol, to relationships and sex education, to healthy relationships with one another, to online safety. We talk about all of those things, and we do that on a Wednesday morning through an assembly programme. However, we also then follow that up in really small groups on a Friday morning with their tutors. And that's a really important environment, because those tutors move with your children, as we were saying, they accompany them on their journey. And therefore that is a really safe space where they may have had potentially something that they thought, oh, I didn't quite understand why that assembly said that, or that challenges my thoughts on this, and they then have that safe space on a Friday to go through that assembly and work through some particular topic that's been covered, but also to ask questions, to have that discussion and to fully understand exactly what we're talking to them about. And often that can be word of the law, or why, a really important one with lower grammar, why what we post is exactly the same as what we say. And if we put it online, we are putting it out there as if we've said it ourselves. And it's a really early one that we do. And I know it's something that Ms. Stevens has been working on them with as well at Rudd's. And now is probably also a good time to point out that that is a 3 to 18 seamless programme. So we build on what they have already done in an age-appropriate way, so that we're providing them with the support they need all the way through. Those, as I say, are done through tutorials and assemblies, but also we have our chaplaincy, and our chaplaincy work really closely with our young people when it comes to pastoral curriculum, and ensuring that everything that we do is underpinned by our Jesuit values and ethos, but also by how we talk and how we act and how our values are displayed. And I think that's a really important part of pastoral care, is about talking to children about it, but also about them seeing it every day around them in the people that are with them. We also have regular retreats and workshops. We will have, I am putting together currently a parent programme that will be probably in the form of webinar with the opportunity for parents to come in, and it will match our PSHE programme. So every half term there will be a speaker or a talk, sometimes external, sometimes internal, on a key topic that's been meaningful across the school that you as parents can also attend, because it's a really changing world. And particularly with the PSHE programme, we have, of course, a curriculum that is mapped out, but it would be wrong of me to say that that is exactly what the children will do, because it is intentionally a dynamic document that we adapt and change to the needs of the playroom. So as I was just saying there, if there was an incident perhaps online, or there was an incident of a particular type of behaviour, we would update our PSHE programme accordingly to ensure that we were providing the education to the children. And we would then look at how do we provide that education to you as parents, or what might you find useful. So there will be a parent programme running alongside that for each of you as well, if you want to attend. Now is probably a good time for me to bring up the fact that Lower Grammar particularly is going to be, and always has been actually whilst I've had it, a digital free playroom. What that means is, and in perfect timing, Lower Grammar are not permitted to have mobile phones during the school day. That is not because, despite their thoughts that Miss Livingstone is a really awful, terrible person, it's actually because, as you yourselves will know, and there are a large amount of studies about the fact that young people are spending an awful lot of time on their mobile devices, and therefore we are trying to support them in giving them appropriate times to use their phones. Now, in Lower Grammar, it has always been the case for a number of years now that Lower Grammarians don't have their mobile phones. This is actually something we're looking at adapting our whole school policy, and it's something we're currently working out at the moment. But it's very easy for me because it's never changed, which is in Lower Grammar we will not have mobile devices. For those of you who are day families, I would like to draw your attention to the fact that boarders' phones are charged by house parents from 9:45. Therefore, please feel free to enforce this at home as well. I obviously cannot tell you how to or what to do with your own children, but certainly the reason we do that is because it's backed up in science. Young people need sleep. If they have, I know what I'm like, if I don't put my phone on Do Not Disturb and it is buzzing, there is no way I actually take some downtime that we all need. And therefore, we take just for your reference, during the school day, the boarders' phones are kept in the boarding house. They are given back to them when the house opens, and they then have their phones for the evening. They're obviously able to reach you, make their phone calls, do whatever they want to do, but they are then taken back in at 9:45. So that is just for all of your reference. That's something that you may wish to have at home. That's entirely up to you. But it is grounded in science from our perspective. Yes?
Is that being looked at to carry out through school when you say you're changing the policy? Because I would definitely be an advocate for not having them at all during any school day all the way through.
Absolutely. So it is something we are looking at the moment, is how do we all have a duty, I think, to recognise that I couldn't survive if I didn't have my mobile phone because all my emails come in on it and I'm running around. But we also have a duty to educate children in how to use their mobile phones sensibly, and therefore we are looking at a school of having key times where they're available that may increase as they get older, may increase at the weekends, but where are digital free zones essentially. So that's something we're currently reviewing and working towards, and I believe we'll also be going to parent, we'll be sort of having a consultation with some of you and sort of saying how do you feel about this, what would work for your children, and then we will put it into our policy. Alice, have I got that right? Is that a good summary?
Yes, I mean, very much so. We're looking at differentiation between lower line and higher line, but really all of lower line is we're looking at it echoing lower grammar because it's been so successful in lower grammar. So higher line maybe a bit, they may have a bit more freedom there.
But essentially, it also helps them to be social with one another. It helps them to be children and not feel that somebody's going to catch them on camera, or it actually helps them to be young people. And I think that's the real important thing here, is to try and educate them around using them sensibly as well. In terms of behaviour, this is something that often we talk about when we talk about pastoral care. And notice that I won't use the word discipline really, or sanctions. That's because essentially we're talking about promoting good behaviour here at Stonyhurst. We have really high expectations of excellent behaviour for all of our young people. That is not to say they are all excellently behaved. I would be lying to you if I said that. I do my best, but there will always be the odd hiccup. However, the important thing is that we have very high standards. You will have noticed, if any of you have siblings here, that we are mirroring the SMH programme, and we have brags and referrals now that are viewable on the school portal. This is something we're working with, and we've been working with for the last term, and we'll be really reinvigorating essentially in September as well. But you as parents will be able to see the brags. This comes from Campion's brag, and it is positive behaviour. And the referrals are where things have perhaps not been as positive. When a student, the focus is to be able to celebrate success essentially. So we are hoping to see an awful lot of brags where we can celebrate the children's success. We're looking at donut days and school discos, early lunch passes. This is what they've fed back in pupil council that they would like, and Rory and I will speak with lower grammar particularly and say, what would you like? Because we recognise that is different at each year group, but the important thing is that we are encouraging them to aspire to want to achieve those success goals. When it goes wrong and referrals are issued, a number of referrals will then result in a behaviour report, essentially, be that for uniform, be that for behaviour in the playroom or in the classroom. And this is the same in boarding, but they are recorded separately, so that that was pupil feedback. They felt very strongly that it wasn't fair if the day students didn't get referrals at home, why could we get them? So we actually record them separately. But it does just mean that we can ensure that whilst their home is their home, there are still very clear rules and boundaries in both places. Those are visible on the school portal for you. I know that is something you will all be very familiar with because it's the same at SMH. And I think, again, it is that important point that nothing changes. As a college, we are holding them to very high expectations, as they do at St Mary's Hall. And therefore, for your children, it will be very much the same experience. They will very much be expected to behave in the same way. What is coming up for all of the young people and indeed yourselves? So our boarders will be coming across on the 21st of June. They will come across and have supper at the college, and they will have the opportunity to, for a couple of hours, shadow the evening routine and just feel like, what's it like to be in the girls' house? Of course, unfortunately, or the boys' house, Mrs. Lomax will not be able to join us. But the reality of this opportunity is more about them being with lower grammar students who they feel they can ask questions and understand what's it like in a much smaller group, because very cleverly it's whilst I'm in Malaga with the majority of the year group. So there are a number of boarders still here intentionally, but there is a lower number so that they feel that they can have a nice chat with them. And in the boys' house, Mr. Lightbound will be available for that evening to meet with the boys. On the 27th of June, there will be tours for parents. Those of you who have signed up, thank you very much. If you didn't, you maybe didn't see that. I know it was something you fed back, that a number of you hadn't had the opportunity to do a tour of the college and have a little look around. So we've scheduled that for 8:45, and myself and Rory will take you on a tour of the college. We'll show you both boarding houses, we'll show you some classrooms. And that will be an opportunity. If you haven't signed up and would like to, I did include the link in yesterday's letter, so you can just sign yourselves up to that. If that doesn't suit you, do let me know. I am around all of Rudiments Parents Weekend. I will be at all of the events, at the ball, etc., and I will slot in one-to-one with those of you who need it, tours or any questions, queries or meetings that you may have. I know for some of our boarding families that may be a weekend that you're particularly joining us, and that may be a good weekend for you to be able to have a tour, so please do just let me know. On the 27th of June, all of Rudiments will come across and they will have a taster day here at the college. We discussed extensively what this would look like, and the lessons will be fun, but it is intentionally a day of lessons. So they will have 3 lessons. They won't have the full school day, but they'll have 4 periods while they're here essentially, plus an assembly and a rec and lunch. And they will have a game session, because almost every day in Lower Grammar they have games. They will have 3 lessons. They will do English, science and drama. And they will do it on a carousel. They'll be put into slightly larger groups than they'll probably be when they are here at school. But it will be that opportunity for them to experience being in college, for them to experience the expectations on them from teachers, which can change slightly, and also that requirement to move around the college, which they get in Figures and Ruds, but it's a much smaller space than the college. So there'll be that opportunity as well to walk along the corridors and to hopefully ease a lot of anxiety, because it will be very carefully constructed and supported for them. But it will also be almost a real life day for them, and that's very, very intentional. So hopefully they will all come back on the 27th of June having had a wonderful day and really enjoyed their day at the college. And I should have actually included that on the 26th of June, a number of students who have particular SEN needs will actually be coming across for a tailored day with myself and Miss Stevens, where they will have the opportunity to meet key people. They will have the opportunity to familiarise themselves a little bit before that full day, so that they are still taking part, but in addition they will have met key people and feel slightly more comfortable and familiar with the day. In terms of induction, you will get a letter from me towards the end of this term formally inviting you to induction, but it's a really important part of the pastoral care and how we accompany the new lower grammarians coming in. And that's because for lower grammar it is 3 full days. And on the first day there are only lower grammar and poetry in school, and that's very intentionally done so that it's not hugely overwhelming for them. Actually, in the morning, boarders will come if they want to unpack, they can come in the morning, but then at lunchtime, the day starts formally at lunchtime with everybody, parents and children, having lunch here in the refectory. And that is, again, an echo of, it doesn't matter where you sleep, it doesn't matter where the children are, we are lower grammar, we are the lower grammar playroom, and we will all experience our induction together, essentially. So in the afternoon they will do some logistical things. The children will have their laptops, they will get their all the things that they need essentially. They will meet their tutors briefly, and you as parents, most importantly, will have the opportunity to meet tutors, to put a face to a name, and to meet parents. Many of you will know each other, but we will have a large number of new students joining us, and it's always a lovely opportunity for boarding families to meet day families, and indeed the new families who will be joining us. On the 5th of September, so they've only had essentially 2 or 3 hours in school, I take all of lower grammar away. I take them away and we go off and we do team building, and that is really intentional. They row me across the river on a raft, which may change because I feel that at year 4 they may now have worked out that if they build a bad raft, I end up in the river. So we might need it. I feel like that's a new role for the playroom leader, actually, Mr. Mellows. That might be one for you. But essentially we divide them up into tutor groups so that they are all mixed in together, and they spend the day having a really brilliantly fun day. They do rock climbing, they do raft building, they do problem solving, but it is very intentionally done as well, so that their very first time at the college is we're all together and this is our memory as a playroom all together. And they will have fabulous memories from Ruds as they finish particularly, and we have the show and all those things, but also for those new students joining us, it's really important that they are a part from the very start of the lower grammar playroom. So we take them off site, and then when we get back to site, we have a lovely barbecue supper before they go off. So it's a really nice day. And then on the 6th of September, the whole college is together, rhetoric return, and we have a whole college day of essentially a very similar, an awful lot of fun. We have our first singing practice. We have our first, so the children will for the first time in St Peter's sing the Paternoster, for example, which is a huge milestone on their journey. Yesterday evening, Mr Brown and I and the other assistant heads were talking about milestones at Stonyhurst as you go on your Stonyhurst journey, and I think that will be a really key one for all of them. And the intention of that day, again, is to feel what is it like to be a pupil here at Stonyhurst? What do we expect of you? And why is it fun? What is it all about, essentially? So hopefully by the end of that day, they will have had a really lovely experience, but they'll also really feel a part of Stonyhurst. Despite being a 3 to 18 school, they are anxious about that little walk across Brothers Walk, and it's really important for them to feel very quickly that actually there was nothing to be anxious about. We all know them. There's a lot of work goes on behind the scenes. I talked to them about it in their assembly last week, about the fact that I get lots of information about them and nothing gets forgotten, but at the same point, it is their opportunity to identify how they want to be recognised on their college journey, and it is a real opportunity for them to be who they want to be and the best version of themselves. I also told them that I'm very competitive and I've always had the most number of students in the school show. I have always had some silverware from my sports teams and I'm not prepared to stop that, so I have very high expectations of them. And then as we look at the accompaniment of you as the families and the young people as well, our Parents' Weekend is going to move to November, and that was feedback from current lower grammar parents and last year's lower grammar parents, where they actually felt like there was quite a long gap between seeing the teachers, but also because we have Treasure Island has moved to November, so you will know that all of lower grammar will be putting on Treasure Island. So please do, and I will get that date to you very early on, but please do put that in your diary, regardless of whether they are front and centre, whether they are at lights and sound, whether they are the person designing the menu of food that will be served for you and sold to you for Jesuit missions. Every lower grammarian will take part in the lower grammar play. Again, that is one of those very important milestones. It's also echoed by Mr Hanley in his bronze diploma. And that will happen in November. So there will be consultations will take place during the day on the Saturday, and that will be in person. It is intentionally inviting you back into the building, and it will very much echo what you've experienced to date at St Mary's Hall. So that will happen in November. Pupils have fed back to us in pupil council that they really want formal dinners, so we will be putting them on. Obviously for lower grammar, please do not worry, you do not need to go out and get full-length dresses and tuxedos and all sorts for young people that grow very quickly. It's not that at all, but it will be a nice event for the students, and there will be 2 of those, and there will be 2 discos, because LG said, but we still like discos, miss. We don't want to get rid of those, so there will also be a couple of discos spread throughout. There will be a formal dinner for you as parents, one in December and one at Great Academies as well, so there will be lots of opportunities to invite you in. And then, where our lower grammar Parents' Weekend, for those of you who have had children in the school, used to be, which was in February, March time when options are taking place, we will instead have some options talks which will be delivered both online and in person. So I've called them options online talks to make sure everybody knows that they'll be recorded, but there would be an opportunity, of course, for you to attend in person to ask any questions you may have. So we've not got rid of those, and we're not expecting you to have an options talk in November and then actually make the choices in February. There's a nice gap between them. And of course, our school year finishes with Great Academies, which takes place in May, and for those of you who live further away and maybe joining us online, like November, a really key date to have in your diary. It's an absolutely fantastic weekend, picnic hampers galore, a lovely music concert, and lots of opportunities to see what the young people here at Stonyhurst do. And what they really enjoy, because a lot of it is designed by them and what they want to show you as parents. So it's almost an exhibition of things that they have been doing. And this year was absolutely fabulous, and I do hope that you'll all be able to join us next year at that. So In terms of when we talk about that, in addition to all of that, there will be obviously the end of term drinks that happen and the slightly more low-key events that will be for you as lower grammar parents, when we invite you in after carol services and various other events. But those are the key dates for your diaries, and I will get the actual dates out to you very shortly. That really is the end of my key talk in terms of the care of your young people and the year ahead of what it will look like. I'm sure many of you have questions, but just before we finish, I would like to stress that it's been an absolute privilege to meet many of you one-to-one. A lot of you have reached out to me. If you haven't yet managed to do that and would like to do that, particularly for our families who are online, please do make those appointments. Like I say, I will be at Rudiments Parents Weekend. I will be available for all of that week. So please do reach out to me and make an appointment. I'd be delighted to meet with you if you've got any questions particular to your own child. And we will say goodbye.